Hi, thank you so much for clicking on my video. My name is Kristen, and today I am going to be talking about a bunch of books that take place on college campuses. So sit back, relax, and welcome back to school. Welcome back to Lit Couture. Thank you so much for joining me today for my second installment of basically a dark academia discussion of books. Today, all of our books will be taking place on college campuses, whether that means you'll be taking college classes in these books, you'll be doing your master's, you just won't leave the gosh darn campus for one reason or another, you're going on to graduate studies, or you've decided you're going back for a reunion, because nothing can ever go wrong at those, especially when you go back after a murder has taken place in your campus. There are a surprising number of books about that. Anyway, please sit back, relax, sharpen those pencils, get out your notebooks, grab a latte, and try and stay alive. Welcome back to school, college edition. Let's just get this over with, shall we? Please welcome, if you have not met already, The Secret History by Donna Tartt, the OG. This was written in 1992 before dark academia was even coined a term. Welcome to the mother of the genre of which we are discussing. Now, I slogged through this sucker, okay? I was absolutely determined to finish this thing last year. I was not going to put this down. I was not going to fail. And yes, I finished it. So, please enjoy my lovely little description of what I did not block out from this book. We have Richard, a very poor scholarship student, but he gets in with an elite crowd of the utmost upper crust and elite students when his professor finally takes pity on all of his begging and lets him into his super tiny study group of these students who are determined to be the upper echelon of their class. And I don't mean they're going to have the best grades and get the best jobs. Nay, friends, they are going to become transcendent. They are not just going to be brilliant. They are going to have freaking bacchanalias, okay? They are going to become the ancient Greeks and Romans. Now, if this sounds a little crazy, they are a little crazy, okay? Basically, all of this leads them down a path not just to, academia, but madness and eventually murder. And that's not a spoiler, okay? The murder happens right away, and then you gotta go back and lead up to it to find out what actually happens, which usually is fairly effective for me in books. In this case, I hated every character. You know what? They probably murdered my favorite character, so thanks a bunch, guys. And when I read this, okay, I didn't fully understand dark academia as a genre. I didn't understand that I was allowed to hate the characters, that I was even supposed to hate the characters, that I was not supposed to aspire to be these people, that this was a critique of academia. I was just like, I love college. I adored college. I even liked the studying part. Why are these people so freaking miserable all the time? Can you all just get together and spend one night not drunk and just do your freaking jobs as students and have a little fun? Lighten up, people. The only reason that this book did not get 1 star, despite my miserable experience reading it and my loathing pretty much every moment I was reading it, is because the writing is absolutely amazing. Donna Tartt is completely brilliant, and she will spend every second of every page making sure she reminds you of that. She knows multiple languages. She can reference any book she wants and all of the old literature and history, and she can do it all, and you feel like an idiot the entire time you're reading this. So thank you for that. I really enjoy being made to feel stupid. That was a delight. I would say make this your pick if you haven't read it. And I know that you're gonna go, what? No, you hated it. Hang on. A lot of people do like it, and if you haven't read it, this is the OG. Once you've read this, you're going to see references in every other dark academia book. From the beginning to the end, all of them reference this book at some point. You're going to see it just littered everywhere. Truthfully, I am glad that I read this, because you know what? Now I don't ever have to repeat the experience. Now we're going to head into some more fun books. I thought it would be fun to head to college campuses that had witches. And I have already spoken to you about Bewitched before, so I'm going to be extremely brief. If you want to see more, please see the video I have linked below about my transitional reads from summer to fall video. So please check that out if you want more. I kind of went off on it because this was one of my favorite books that I read all summer long. This book is about a witch, Celine, who every time she uses her magic, she loses a memory, which, you know, not fantastic, especially when you're not supposed to necessarily be shouting to the world, hey, I'm a witch and have magic. Covens are a little nervous to let her come in and study with them. So she has to go on this quest to prove herself worthy. And she does that. But when she does that, she accidentally sort of unlocks this ancient tomb in which there's a man called Memnon the Cursed who's like, hey, you are the woman who cursed me to be here. And by the way, you're also like my long lost wife. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm locking you back in here. Bye. And of course, he gets back out, shows up on her campus, and then murders start. It's a delight. It's wonderful. The spice is fantastic. You want enemies to lovers with some amazing chemistry and a fantastic familiar. We got the perfect grown-up Harry Potter starring a female book right here. I love this book. It's by Laura Thalassa, who you know is going to give you the perfect alpha male, okay? Some amazing enemies to lovers. Do yourself a favor. It is witchy season. It is academia season. Pick this one up. I promise you will not regret it. This one goes down like hot, spicy mulled cider, okay? It will warm you up from the inside out on a cold, cold day. Did I mention 5 stars? Please go back in your box. You're making me want to read you again. Is this a sign? Go back in your box. Next up is The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. Would I shock anyone if I told you I was a sorority girl? No, gee. Surprise, surprise. Well, I would like you to meet a sorority that definitely didn't exist on my campus, Kappa Rho Nu. And this sorority is actually a cover on Westerly campus for a sorority of witches. How fantastic is that? So in this super exclusive, wonderful sorority, we have 2 girls that we're following. Vivi, who is brand new and is just looking for like a fresh start. She wants to start over. She wants to start fresh. She really wants to redefine herself, which get it, girl. I totally understand that when you start college, like, go for it. Be who you want to be. And then we have Scarlett, who is already a Raven. Like, she is the it girl. You know the type, but she's also under super amounts of pressure from her mother, who is a, you know, former Raven. And she absolutely is insistent her daughter must be perfect and must become president of the Ravens, on top of being beautiful and having perfect grades and being a fantastic witch and yada yada. You know the type. We all know the type. These 2 get paired as Big and Little. If you don't know what that is, you're basically like forced besties in a group, and the Big is supposed to like take on the Little and like show them the ropes. And if there's like bad stuff going on in the sorority, the HAZE word, they usually kind of oversee that kind of stuff. This is not really like that too much. Scarlett is doing pretty well with her campaigning, and she'd be doing even better if it weren't for the skeleton in her closet. But all is well and good, except for the fact that, you know, the blood oath between Big and Little seems like, unfortunately, it's going to be taken in much more literal terms than would be for the best. This book has a phenomenal sequel. Can we just take a moment for these covers called The Monarchs? And it is just as good and wonderful as the original. I recommend this duology with my whole heart. This is the perfect time of year to read it. Please pick these up. They're fantastic. Now, first of all, I just want to say that the symbolism of using a sorority as a cover for a coven of witches is just brilliant. What do men hate? Women who have secrets and power. What is the sorority? Women who have secrets and power on campus, right? Not to mention that sororities at their heart really are about sisterhood and rituals. That's what a coven is as well. It's genius, and it works so, so well. Now, I will say that the academics in this are a little bit light if you're looking for like super, super academia in this video. However, you do see a lot of witchy learning. You're going to get your fill of potion making and spells and that kind of thing. And there is a fair amount of it. You will stumble across random cauldrons bubbling. So if you are looking more for witchy learning vibes, this is going to be your bestie. Make this your pick if you are in a sorority, because this will absolutely take you back and then take you right into the movie Hocus Pocus as well. It's wonderful. It's so much fun. Is it the world's best writing? No, but you're going to have a brilliant time. Now we're going to talk about another witchy book that takes place on a campus that I actually have not read yet, and I am so excited to put this on my October TBR, so please join me if you feel so inclined. This is The Coven by Harper L. Woods, and I am psyched to read this one, you guys. So it feels a little familiar, like maybe we borrowed a few elements from Discovery of Witches, because we do have a vampire and a witch on an academic setting campus, and they're definitely like Not besties right away. We got a little enemies, lovers, feelings, maybe academic rivalry stuff going on, but no complaints because I think that can be done better and definitely can be done spicier. And Harper Elwoods, I'm betting is not going to let me down on that one. So we are at Hollow Grove University, and what's special about Hollow Grove University is not just that it is, of course, super elite, aren't they all? But here you are allowed to practice magic in the open, I guess, because it's super isolated. And obviously, this is clearly going to be a world where magic is frowned upon, blah, blah, blah. People don't know about it. So, yay, you actually get to practice your magic if you're allowed in. Sounds great. Now, our main girl, Willow, here has been kind of raised to hate the Coven her whole entire life because apparently they stripped her father and his siblings of their magic like ages ago. But now that she's accepted in, she's like, cool, I'm gonna go because then I can use my magic and protect my brother and make sure he doesn't get his magic stripped away from him. However, of course, this makes things a little tense between her and the headmaster, who she hasn't even met yet. But, you know, apparently he is a vessel. And in this world, a vessel, they're vampires. Okay, they're basically vampires. Cue academic enemies to lovers. Need I say more vampire and witch romance? I am here for it. I'm so excited for this. But there's also some kind of spooky elements going on here. So apparently this school never admits new students. And this is the first time in like 50 years that 13 new students have been allowed in. And you are probably asking me, Kristen, what's the deal? Why are they suddenly allowing new students in? Well, 50 years ago, there was a massacre and 13 students were just like, you know, slaughtered. So now they're like, hey, we're going to let you have their places. Congratulations. And we're just going to forget all about what happened back then. Nobody talk about it. Shh. Unfortunately, the ghosts are still there of those 13 students, and they're pissed, okay? And they're not gonna be forgotten, and they kind of want their revenge. So, yay, this sounds perfect for October and Halloween. Make this your pick if you want to join me in reading this in October, because this is absolutely on my TBR for next month. I can't wait. When Leigh Bardugo said she was going to put out an adult book, I was pretty excited. And then I found 9,000. I was like, creepy, creepy snake. And you know what? She went hard, okay? This is indeed an adult book. And she starts right off in a world that is pretty much supposed to be ours, except there's magic. And who am I to say there's not magic in our world? Not saying that. Her main character, Alex, she's made some choices in her life, like dropping out of high school, getting involved with like booze and drugs, and then just making a general mess of things, like living in sketchy apartments, having sketchy boyfriends. In general, she's just made a mess of things, and now her future kind of is going nowhere really, really fast. And then one night she wakes up in a hospital bed, and apparently she's been involved in a multiple person homicide. Good. And she's the sole survivor. Well, hey, she survived, right? And there's this man staring at her, and he's like, hey, and she's like, hey, who the F are you? And he's like, so I'm here to offer you full admission to Yale, free of charge. And she's like, dude, you have the wrong room. Do you know who I am? And he's like, yes, there's a catch. And she's like, of course there is. And he's like, okay, so here's the deal. Yale actually has like these magical houses, and you're going to be in the ninth house, which basically oversees all of the other houses. So the other houses are like these secret societies, and basically they have these magical powers. And in these houses are the people who not only will grow up to be the senators and the actors of the world and have all the important roles, you know, but they also control pretty much everything, like stock market. They're pulling the strings. They're probably pulling the strings for the weather. I don't remember exactly, but I'm betting it's in there. And she's like, and I have to, and he's like, you just oversee everything. Make sure nothing goes wrong. Make sure they're following the rules we give you. Just watch over their ceremonies and stuff and like be there. And she's like, my ticket out of a crappy life sold. So she gets there and she's watching their rituals and stuff. And like, there's some like occult magic, okay? This is not like friendly, happy, sparkly magic, okay? This is like sacrificial, ritualistic kind of magic, but it's not too bad that she's seen so far, and she's doing her job and things are going well. And then there's like, you know, a murder on campus, so things aren't going so well. And then her mentor disappears, and you know, things are probably not really happening the way they're supposed to. Welcome to Yale, Alex. Congratulations on your admissions. I had some trouble getting into this book, and it's not Leigh Bardugo's fault, it is Alex's fault, okay? I would just like you to look at me for a moment. Think about everything you've seen in this video or seen from past videos, and then think about what I told you about Alex. I'm the opposite of Alex. our little anti-hero here. I am bubbles and sunshine and pink, and I like everything happy and bubbly, and she like hates the world. Basically, she is grumpy and like loves her like big old trench coat, okay? And I'm pretty sure if you made her wear the color pink, she'd throw up. So we don't have a lot in common. So I had a little bit of trouble dealing with her as a narrator at first, but we finally got there. We finally got there. And then Lee Bardugo was like, "You're finally having a good time. Great. I'm going to throw some gore in there just for you, Kristen, just to really drive home this is an adult book, and I'm going to make sure you are unsettled the whole freaking time. Thank you, Lee Bardugo. You did a fantastic job." And yet I could not stop reading. I had to know what was happening. I had to know what was going on. The rituals were a bit much. The occult magic stuff is not necessarily my favorite thing to read, but you know what? I ended up really liking the book. Some of it maybe needed a little bit of an edit. Some parts were a little confusing, some parts dragged a little bit, some of the magic was a little confusing. The explanation of the houses, you got things in fragments, and I think that was done just because maybe Alex was supposed to be confused and you were supposed to be confused with her. I didn't want to be confused, but I don't get a say in this. I didn't write or edit the book, so what can you do? But pick this if you want to read about an anti-hero, if you are cool with the occult ritualistic vibes and you think that that sounds great for your spooky season TBR. Next up, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. I love this edition so much. Shout out to Fairy Loot. Despite the fact that I realized that it's actually damaged, and that breaks my heart a little bit because this was my first special edition ever, but I was too afraid to say anything because it was my first special edition ever, so that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to be super brief about this one because this was in my first Aurelian Magical Readathon wrap-up video, so if you want a fuller explanation on the plot or my review, please check that out. Basically, this is about a young man named Robin Swift who ends up going to University of Oxford and attending the Tower of Babel, where they study translation. And Babel is sort of the center of power at this time, not just knowledge and learning in Britain. And while they're out doing all their wonderful colonization and relying on Babel to help them with, gaining power and land and all this good stuff, Robin comes to realize, oh man, you know what? An act of translation really is always an act of betrayal. And while we're doing all of this, someone is clearly paying the price for all of this, and he is wondering, who's paying for it? Is it worth it? And is there anything that he can do to stop this? Please make this your pick if you enjoy thinking about language and about how the meaning of words can change and alter the meaning of a poem or a sentence or an entire book. This is a book that will make you think and definitely goes a bit deeper than some of the other ones on this list. So if you're interested in that, it's a great choice for you. And also pick this one if you have a little bit of a rebellious side in you. I think you'll enjoy this one if you do. I don't know if I want to read this book. This book is on this list because I've heard about it so many times and nobody seems to know what to say about it. So it still has my interest piqued, but I'm not sure. So this is Vita Nostra by, are you ready for me to try this? Marina and Sergei Dyachenko, and it was translated by Julia Maytov-Hersey. So if I got that wrong, my apologies, truly. But anyway, while on vacation with her mom, Sasha comes across this strange but extremely charming and persuasive man, and he gives her these kind of odd tasks. And what makes them kind of odd is that they could have kind of scandalous consequences, and yet she feels compelled to do them. She just can't convince herself not to. And once she's done with them, he gives her this gold coin. Weird already, right? I know. But then again, I can't ever turn down a Dara challenge either, so I gotcha, Sasha. I getcha. Her mom is like, oh my gosh, you have to use this to enter this really elite school. How exciting that you're going to be accepted and admitted. So the coin grants her entrance and admittance to the Institute of Special Technologies, and I know what you're thinking, like coding, computers, she's gonna make bank. Oh no. Oh no. This wild, crazy school has books that can't be read, classes that are so obscure and have such strange topics that no one can understand them, and basically teaches you information that wildly refuses to be memorized. Good luck to Sasha and all her friends there. Now, if you fail, you might be thinking, well, okay, you fail out, or you get like detention or something. No, it's your family that gets punished if you don't do well. So you have to do well. But if you can overcome all of this and get the hang of things and start to get in this wild, crazy out there mindset, apparently you can literally learn to achieve anything you can dream of. So apparently this book goes into like magical realism, fantasy, philosophy. This book touches everything, and everyone I've heard try and describe it just can't. They're like, you just have to read it. I can't tell you anything. It's just wild and crazy, and you won't understand anything, and it's nuts. Give it a try. So make this your pick if you want to do me a solid and tell me if I should read this or not, because I don't know what to do with this book. It's been sitting on my shelf for years. Do I finally give up, or do I read this sucker? Let me know. I very nearly chose dress to match this book, but I could not find the perfect swirly dress. I didn't just want to do the solid colors. That is how much I remember loving this book. However, it has been years, I will warn you, so bear with me. What Catherine House Wants You to Know by Elizabeth Thomas is that you are the house, and the house is you. Slightly creeped out yet? No? Maybe I can help with that. So deep, deep, deep in the woods of rural Pennsylvania, trust me, those woods are dark and deep. You can get lost. No one will ever know. I'm pretty sure there are cryptids out there. Consider yourself forewarned. There is a liberal arts school like no other. They produce the most influential people, which they don't care about that much, but the greatest minds that they care about in the whole entire world. All you have to do is be selected to get in, good freaking luck with that, and then give yourself over to the school for 3 years. And I do mean give yourself over to the school for 3 years. You don't get summer break. You don't get contact with mommy or daddy or anyone in your family or any friends, and you don't get any outside contact. And by that I mean no Netflix, no music. God, I'd miss Taylor Swift so much. And you also will not be bringing your favorite cardigan or your teddy bear. That's right, no clothes, no personal belongings. The house will provide everything for you. Bedding, clothing, you name it. House board, food, that you've got it all. They give you your books, everything. Everything's free, in fact. But you're not leaving that campus or having any outside influence for 3 entire years. Could you do it? I couldn't do it, but maybe you could. I don't know. But if you can manage this, you get access to the most innovative curriculum, the most inventive teachers, most out there liberal arts school in the whole wide world, and you leave totally prepared for the world, almost guaranteed to become whatever you want and with a zillion connections. Now, Inez enters the school and is pretty sure she's going to do just fine. She is ready for the academic rigor like no other. What she does not expect is that there are going to be all these parties and all these like decadent events that she's also supposed to take part in. But she's okay, that's fine. You know, I can do this. That's whatever. You want me to drink expensive wine? Sure. But her roommate, Baby, she's named Baby for a reason, okay? She is not prepared for this school. I don't know how this girl got in. Somebody made a whoopsie. And Baby is no longer a student very quickly. And at this point, Inez is like, okay, I've been feeling a little like claustrophobic. I think something's up with this school. It feels like a gilded cage. If you look really closely, everything's kind of like shabby and crumbling. Can we maybe look a little closer and see if something's up with this house? I think there's something like sinister going on. And lo and behold, of course there is. It wouldn't be dark academia if there wasn't. Am I right? Am I right? I'm totally right. I don't remember this book super, super vividly. However, I do remember that anytime I saw anyone in a video saying that they didn't love it, I was very viscerally upset because I adored this book. The atmosphere was totally fantastic, and maybe that's because I live next door to Pennsylvania and I could just picture it and feel it so vividly, and I was like, yes, yes, that is totally what rural Pennsylvania feels like. I totally would buy that there is this school in the middle of the woods out there. Absolutely 100%, but I loved this book. This book takes the very best elements from The Secret History and Bunny and combines them into its very own thing set out in a very, very isolated setting, and it becomes this wonderful, magical middle ground, but that's all its own. Let me tell you, you've got the dark academia, you've got the rigorous studying, you've got the crazy partying and the sort of descent into madness thing going on. So we've got that like magical realism. We do have some of those fantastic elements that makes you question even the very ground you're walking on at times. You do have elements like that as well. If you want a book that's a little easier to read and it's going to make you question everything and it's going to give you some like eerie like vibes, Catherine House is totally the pick for you. This book does have something to say. It really does. I can't elaborate tons and tons and tons because I don't want to ruin anything, but make this your pick if you want a book that is going to combine The Secret History and Bunny, has something to say, and really does have this sinister undertone that goes throughout the entire thing. It is a great choice for this time of year. As I mentioned previously, I have a TBR of shame, and I can't believe I'm even allowed to have a booktube channel without having read them. And the Atlas 6 is on this TBR of shame. I have had it for years. I mean to read it every fall, and every fall somehow it slips through the cracks. I'm sorry, Atlas 6. You're on my TBR again! Let's take bets and see what happens. The Atlas 6 by Olive E. Blake is about the Alexandrian society, and in this particular year, 6 students are recruited by a man named Atlas, and they are told, you are 6 incredibly talented magicians, you all have wildly different powers, and you are going to be competing against one another for 1 year. And at the end of the year, 5 of you are going to get to be a part of the Alexandrian society. And you remember the Library of Alexandria, right? Well, it didn't actually burn. You're going to get to guard its knowledge and its power and know all its secrets. All you have to do is not be the one who dies competing in this year. Let me just say, I wish the Library of Alexandria hadn't burned down. Boy, does that make me so, so sad. But people seem to love this book, hate this book. I'm glad I have the edited edition, although I'm kind of sad I missed out on the original cover. I want to read this book so badly. I've heard make this your pick if you really like that Hunger Games style live or die competition thing. If you've read this, leave me a comment down below and encourage me to read this and get this off my TBR, because dear God, I can't believe I haven't read anything by Olive E. Blake yet. It's just sad. Would it be a dark academia book if I did not speak about Bunny by Mona Awad? This book gave me a migraine, okay? I gave it 2 stars. And yet, years later, I'm still actively thinking about this book. What did it mean? What did it mean? No, seriously. The symbolism, the writing, it's amazing. And the fact that I am still thinking about this book and wondering about it and considering it, it's not a 2-star book. I know that. I just had never experienced anything like it, and I'd never been so confused in my life, and I'm not used to that. I'm not. If you have not read this book by some miracle, it is brilliant. It really is. I can't argue that. Love it or hate it, you will think your little heart out. This book is about Samantha, and she is getting her MFA at grad school, which is a Master in Fine Arts in Writing, and she is super brilliant and working really hard, but you know, her grades aren't like the most amazing in the world because all of her classmates are kind of like, you know, we don't love or get your work because it's really freaking dark. Can you write about something that doesn't give us nightmares? And she's like, no. And in her class, particularly, are the bunnies. And they're these super cute, perky, twee little girls who are like super affectionate with one another. And they're like, hey, bunny. Hi, bunny. I love you, bunny. You look so cute today, bunny. Oh my God, I totally would have been a bunny. One day, these girls are like, hey, Samantha, why don't you come to our smut salon? And she's like, excuse me, you're what? No, they're like, a salon where we talk about literature and writing and we workshop our stuff together. And she's like, oh, yeah. So she ditches her bestie, which is super not cool. Sorry, Ava, that it was like her only friend. And she goes to their smut salon, and all I can say after this, and I'm going to warn you right now, if you go on Goodreads, it will tell you more. Don't go in Goodreads. Go into this blind if you haven't read it. It's just so much better if you don't know, which is why I'm not saying anymore. Just know that it is bizarre and strange and confusing and out there and wild. And whatever you think it's not about that, or maybe at this point it is, I don't know, but my goodness, I had never read anything like it before in my life, and I still don't think anything could ever take the place of Bunny. The symbolism is incredible. The writing is incredible. I'm still thinking about it to this day. Oh, Mona Awad. You get to the ending and you're like, oh no, you didn't. And she's like, oh yes, I freaking did. The last few sentences just continue to blow my mind. Pick this book if you were an English major or took a bunch of writing courses when you were in college, because you will recognize the characters, you will recognize the students, you will recognize yourself, you will recognize the assignments, you will recognize the discussions, you will recognize the professors. This book, it is a love letter to the study of English literature and writing, and for that reason, I do have to love it, even if it made me want to rip my hair out at times because I was just so busy going, what the heck is going on? But it's worth the read. I promise you, it's worth the read. Still in grad school, if by some miracle you are unaware of A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, this is a trilogy that takes place at Oxford University, where dear Diana, our not thrilled about magic, non-practicing witch, is studying very, very, very hard at a degree that does not matter at all. And while she is doing her research, she is calling down obscure texts about God knows what. And when one pops up called Ashmole, she's like, I did not order this, but sure. Let's flip through this, and sure enough, it is some crazy magical text that has some sort of reaction to her when she opens it, and she's like, "Oh heck no, I'm gonna put this thing back from where I got it," and that is not how it works, because now all the magical creatures around somehow know that she has touched this text that has been lost for centuries, and everybody wants their hands on because it holds all kinds of secrets about the origins of magical creatures or something. And they descend upon the library, and she's like, "Ooh, vampire. What are you? Fae, fairy, whatever exists in this world. Another witch, another witch." All the magical creatures from everywhere are flying in and swooping down and entering the library, which is her little dust mote filled safe haven. And they are trying to get their hands on the text, but no one can call it down. No one can locate her. She's the only one who's able to get it down from the stacks for some strange reason. And of course, she's the only one who can unlock its secrets and undo the spells on it and figure out what it actually says and decode the secrets it holds. Now, one of the creatures who is super interested in her, oh, did I say that out loud? Is Matthew, and he is the vampire who is also at Oxford, and he is there as a researching geneticist. And yes, they fall super in love. In 40 days, they're soulmates and ready to get married and like, I love you forever, because apparently they're like teenagers, but totally adults. And there's rowing. There's so much rowing up and down the Thames. And so many bad decisions. Okay, in case you couldn't tell, I loved it when I read it. I also read it when it first came out, and I was much younger and stupider. And this is basically Twilight for grown-ups. The first book, so much better, totally in the academia realm. But the second book, I got halfway through and could never finish it. And I did watch the TV show with my husband, and we did finish it, and I don't remember anything. So that should tell you everything you really need to know. Okay, I remember like one special effect that was cool in like the third season or second season, maybe. So pick this one if you really love Twilight. You like the idea of the characters being older and them living in England and there being lots of books and studying going on. And if you like Elizabethan England, because that's a requirement if you're going to continue on in the series. Today's book that I tried to match while still looking dark academia was Heather Fawcett's Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries. And believe me, it was quite the challenge. So I tried. I have not read this book yet, and ever since I got it last winter, I have been waiting until the fall to read it, entirely based on this illustration, which looks like November to me. So that is when I will be reading it, and I cannot wait. Everyone who has read it has loved it, so allow me to give you a brief description so you too can be dying to read it with me if you have not already enjoyed it. This book is about Emily Wilde, big shock, I know. And she is a professor who is out doing research on fairies. She is the utmost expert in the world right now on the Fae, or the fair folk as they are also known. And so she is headed up to Scandinavia to do some very extra special research on the most reclusive and rare fair folk in the world, called the Wilde ones. And while she is up there with her super cute dog, is he in the picture? Oh, he's not. Oh, yes, he is. And while she is up there, her academic rival all of a sudden shows up. And unlike her, who is curmudgeonly and kind of standoffish and like socially awkward, he gets along great with all the townsfolk and they love him, whereas she's kind of not super beloved. And he is making friends and doing great. And she's like, "I'm just here to do my research. Please don't get in my way." His name, by the way, is Wendell Bambleby. Can we just say like how fun that name is? I love him already. Clearly I would be the sunshine one in the grumpy sunshine relationship, but it's kind of nice to see it swapped where she's the grump and he's the sunshine for a change, I guess. So at first she only cares about discovering the secrets of the Fae and is just like, "Please stop, getting in my way, like, you're really annoying." And then eventually she's like, "Why are you here? What are you doing here? What do you want?" And of course, obviously, what he really wants is her heart. I assume. She's also up there with her dog, and I can't decide if I really want her dog to be like grr and hilarious with Wendell, or if I want him to like totally fall in love with Wendell first. I think I want him to fall in love with Wendell first. That would totally irritate Emily, and that's to be hilarious. But I can't wait to read this. Obviously, you should make this your pick if you want an academic rivals to lovers story like I do. I think it's going to be so much fun. And this is clearly the perfect time to read it. This also obviously has more of the traditional like folklore fair folk style fairy if you're interested in that sort of thing, which I totally am. And I've heard that it does have a lot of like encyclopedic entries. So it really does have that academic feel without all the murder. We get like academia. I can't wait. Put this on if you too are dying to finally have some light academia on your TBR. Now, if you too want to continue your life of learning forever and ever and ever, here is an example of what can happen when you do that and how it might drive you a tiny bit mad. Welcome to The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. And I read this a very long time ago, so my memory might be a little faded, but it's not as faded as you might think. This book, or the author I should say, was given a $2 million advance, and when it did not do super well, the publishing industry stopped doing that for authors for quite some time. So that should tell you a lot about how this book was originally received. But I'm really glad vampires are back, aren't you? So if you want to read a book about the OG vampire, and no, not quite Dracula, we're talking Vlad the Impaler, the guy who inspired Dracula, and also Dracula. Listen up, kiddies. So we've got a girl who finds a bunch of old yellowed letters, and it turns out that they're not just in her father's library, they're from her father and I think her mother as well. And they are detailing this crazy research that they did along with some of their colleagues all about Vlad the Impaler and trying to find his original link with him and Dracula. And like you're thinking, oh, he's just the inspiration, but this is hinting like there's something more there, guys. Intrigued? So was I. So now that her parents are dead, and I think they've been dead for like 10 years at this point, she has to decide, am I just gonna like let this go and let's, I shouldn't say that sleeping dogs lie, that's a terrible phrasing right now, but that's all that's coming to mind. Am I just gonna let this go, or am I going to continue their research despite the fact that this has clearly, ruined the reputations of people because it's kind of a crazy thing to research and driven some people absolutely mad. Look how long this book is. She's clearly going for it. So please join me if you would like on this crazy journey. It has multiple parts. We get to see her mom and dad's journey through this research and also her journey through this research. And we see the atmosphere is the best. We see fantastic, amazing libraries from the Ivy Leagues. We see monasteries, all these Eastern European cities. We see amazing dusty archives. I mean, this is some peak academia stuff here going on. I will say that much. All on a search for the truth of the link between Vlad the Impaler and Dracula. Is he just the inspiration, or is there something more going on? I remember loving this book. The first half of this book, I was really enjoying it. It was a bit to wade through, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was, and I will explain why in a moment, but then it took a hard veer south, and that hard veer south is when I was like literally hitting my head with this book. Why would you do this? This is not what I wanted you to do. And some people are going to love it and other people are going to hate it. And I was one of the haters, I'm very sorry to say. Now, the other problems that I had with this book were the tangents and the incredibly long passages that were super duper detailed that you really didn't need to know about like tiny obscure moments in history. And I mean, this author just went off. She was just like, you want a footnote? Oh, I'll give you a footnote. I'm not going to even make it a footnote. It's just going to be the book. Enjoy. Have fun. Here I go. You want to learn about some tiny obscure little city? We're gonna go nuts about this tiny thing that happened once there. Not only did we have all these tangents and long tedious passages, but we had so many coincidences. Like, this book could not have happened if it wasn't for the ridiculous number of coincidences that just continually occurred throughout that made the plot carry on and made things continually happen for our characters. And speaking of the characters, they were cardboard cutouts, okay? They were just vessels. They had no real personality, and they just let the plot carry on forward. And if you're looking for chemistry between characters, oh God, don't choose this book. You will find none. However, if you really want a Dracula origin story, I mean, this will give you a Dracula origin story starting all the way with Vlad the Impaler. And if you want to feel like you are truly going through the research to find out his origin story, you will really get the full experience, like the full, I am reading original text and really digging through so much information to find what could possibly help me understand and learn what I need to experience. You'll get it all in these many, many pages. Be forewarned about this next pick. It is one of those books that is either a love it or a hate it book. This is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, and I did really enjoy it. This was a 4-star for me. I have not read The Silent Patient, so don't ask me about it. I don't know, but I did love this one. If you want to just hang around a college campus long after you've graduated because, I don't know, you want to solve a murder? Listen up, because that's exactly what Mariana did in this book after her husband sadly passed away and she is still grieving hardcore. Her niece calls her up and she's enrolled at her old alma mater. She's like, oh my gosh, Aunt Mariana, guess what just happened? My friend got murdered. And she's like, okay, Zoe, chill. I will be right there. I am totally super stable and completely fine. I'm not still grieving my dead husband, your uncle, at all. And I will be right there ASAP. This totally fine group therapist shows up at Cambridge right away and immediately knows exactly who committed this murder, this super creepy, by which I mean really handsome and charming, Greek tragedy professor named Edward Tosca. Now, to be fair, he does have this society called the Maidens, and they are only really young, beautiful students, all females, who are in his class, and that is slightly sketchy. And yes, they are invited to extra, we'll say study sessions, but also like events at his house, little parties, dinners, that sort of thing, you know. And so sure, that's maybe not like the greatest look, but it doesn't make him a murderer. And especially since he has an alibi, everyone's kind of like, Mariana, do you really want to call in like every favor you've got and call up every single person you've ever known at Cambridge now to investigate this guy? Like, you're that sure he did it? And she's like, yes. And then another dead body turns up and she's like, oh my God, you guys, what did I tell you? There is a murderer loose on this campus. What is wrong with you people? And like downward spiral, okay? Like we see it all happen and she knows he did it. She knows he did it. But everyone's kind of thinking she's a little nuts. And she's maybe not totally in her right mind and maybe not totally making the right or safest decisions. And maybe that's putting her in kind of a lot of danger and catching the eye of whoever this murderer may be. The absolute best part of this book is the atmosphere. We start off down in the Mediterranean, I think it's in Italy, and the author does not just throw away any opportunities there. He goes ahead and builds us a beautiful setting, and then we leave it, and Cambridge is fantastic. You get the full English college campus experience, and I don't just mean like the grand buildings and all the spirals and libraries. You get the little behind the scenes. You see the offices and the hidden little staircases and some of like the little shabby dorms. You see it all, and the setting is such a full, rich setting that you really feel like you are at Cambridge. It is delightful. Now, I don't always love watching these downward spirals of sanity. And Mariana, despite being a therapist herself, really goes on one, but it makes sense. She's grieving the loss of her husband. She feels like she's in danger and no one is listening to her. I didn't totally love it because I'm never going to totally love it, but this one is done, I think, really well. So no complaints there for me necessarily. The other thing that totally got me and that probably made me a true lover of this book was all the Greek references. They are littered throughout. You're going to see them throughout. And even the Maiden Society, like one of the things that makes her so suspicious is that our lovely Greek professor, Edward Tosca, is obsessed with Persephone. And you know what? So am I. Now, is it a good look that there's a murder on campus and he's obsessed with the goddess of the underworld? Maybe not. But I was eating it up. And I love everything to do with Greek tragedies, Greek plays, and especially the Greek gods and goddesses. So I was just happy as a clam reading through all of this. The one thing I didn't love was the ending. But you know what? I'm just going to pretend those last few pages didn't exist and I don't know what happened. And so I'm fine with the book, the end. I'm going to say, pick this book if you always totally know who the killer is in every single thriller you read. Absolutely, 100%. And you are usually dead wrong. This might be a slightly controversial pick for a video that's supposed to be all about academic settings. I'm putting it in here because I loved this book, and technically all of the flashbacks take place on a college campus. It's about a group of friends who met on a college campus and a murder that took place on a college campus. So my video, my rules. Also, I loved this book. We all know an it girl, right? And Ruth Ware has chosen to name her it girl at Oxford, in this particular case, April. And, you know, in my opinion, normally it girls are more like a high school thing, but whatever. We've got our sparkly, shiny, every girl wants to be her, every guy just wants her, April, and she creates a wonderful group of friends in their first semester at Oxford, and by the end of the second semester, she's dead. murdered. So, not so great for our it girl. However, one of her friends, Hannah, things didn't end so bad for her because she married one of the other members of their friend group, Will, and now they're happily married, they're living together, and she's expecting their first baby, and she's working in a bookstore. Like, I'm set up to love this book from the get-go, right? Now, all is going well until one day, knock, 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 a reporter shows up and is like, hey, you know that guy who's like in jail and totally convicted for murdering your friend? Yeah, it looks like he didn't do it. Like, maybe. Sorry to let you know that. And now it's kind of on the news and she's freaking out and she's like, okay, time to dig out the old yearbooks and some old phone numbers and call up my old friends and dig up all their old secrets. And oh, look, maybe one of those secrets is that one of them is a murder. Whoops. I loved this book. This was a 5-star for me last year around this time. I picked it up and was just hopelessly in love from the get-go. This has dual timelines, and I know what you're thinking. Oh no, usually one timeline is so much better than the other. I loved both of them equally for different reasons. In, the one timeline, we've got back to school, we've got college campus, and we don't just have like Cambridge academic setting. Because of sparkly, wonderful April, we've got the parties and the fun stuff. And let me tell you, I just felt like I was back in college, okay? I was reliving my glory days for like half the book. Well, up until she got murdered, like none of that happened on my college campus. It was all just fun. But it was so much fun to read. And yes, there was some suspicious stuff going on and some like, potential relationship betrayals and some sketchy stuff. But oh my goodness, I had the best time reading it. And then the second timeline, I loved it too because, for a change, it was so absolutely refreshing and a nice change of pace. Instead of seeing someone who's struggling to get pregnant or having fertility issues, we've got a happily married couple. We've got a woman who's already pregnant. And now this pregnancy not only sticks, but it's actually used kind of as a plot device. We see it develop to a certain extent, and it actually hinders her trying to figure out what's going on, and later adds to the peril in the end of the book. It was great. I thought it was done so well, and it was just this nice little touch to the story. So I would say make this your pick if you're totally fine with the academics only taking place in half of the book and you are just a Ruth Ware girly. You know if you are, and I sure am one. Meet another thriller that I absolutely adored. This is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Yes, I'm too afraid to read any other books by her, but that's another story. Our tagline is 6 friends, 1 reunion, 1 murder. At least in this book, by the way, we're moving on up and no one is like behind bars for a murder that they did not commit. No, the murderer has been on the loose for 10 years. Is that moving up? Anyway, here we are about to enter our 10-year reunion at the super elite Southern school, Duquette University. And we start the book with Jessica, who is coiffed and stilettoed and powdered and poised to make her grand re-entrance down there because let's just say she left things off on not quite the perfect note. So for her triumphant return, she wants to leave behind all the memories that everyone had of their friend group kind of breaking up, her relationships kind of breaking up, and her dreams kind of breaking up when her bestie Heather was murdered while they were at college. Yikes! Yeah, that's going to kind of hinder your college experience, I bet. Unfortunately for her, someone has been plotting and planning, and now that all of those 6 friends are back down on campus, that means all of the players are back on that board, and someone is very happy to manipulate and move them around in order to discover who the true murderer was and get justice for Heather. Of course, in order to solve Heather's murder, that means digging out all of those secrets that have been buried in a virtual time capsule, so to speak, for the last decade. But Jessica's not quite ready for that to happen at her class reunion. Neither are her friends. Buckle up, guys. Welcome back to school. I loved this book so much, and so did everyone else who read this. I'm not alone in this, but let me tell you, there is a reason. Oh my goodness. Where do I even start? First of all, I would say that the relationships in this book are absolutely terrific. Writing is great too. Throwing that in there now before I forget. But there is a love triangle in this book. There is a forbidden relationship aspect to part of it, and it is just absolutely so well done. Love triangles can go either way. Usually I like them, but I kind of feel like I've grown out of them. Ashley Winstead proved me wrong, okay? I have not outgrown love triangles. They just have to be done the right way. And this is how you do it. This is the way to make it emotional and make me feel the real feelings and make it all make sense and not just be about lust and cheat. This is the way to do it. I mean, I think this book honestly had me near tears. Okay. Also, this is told in dual timelines, and for once, both of them were equally compelling because both of them essentially have this countdown component going on. Yes, they're only there in the current timeline just for the reunion, but believe me, the person who's orchestrating this whole "I'm gonna find the murderer" thing, they're really on a countdown, okay? Let me tell you. And obviously, we're counting down in the past to Heather's murder, so you don't catch your breath in this book. Instead, the pace starts here and it picks up. It keeps going. You are zooming to the end and you are just trying to remember how to breathe by the time you get to the end, and both plots are flying at top speed. It is a wild read, let me tell you. Whew. Now, Jess, our main character, she's a little morally gray. She is not the perfect person. She is not a perfect main character, but she is so utterly compelling. One thing that Ashley Winstead does so well is creating characters that feel real and you feel for them emotionally. You understand them, and that is what makes this book so fantastic. The characters themselves, you understand their motivations, and they get under your skin. You feel for all of them. Please make this your pick if you want your book to be a lot heavier, not just a little heavier, on the thrill than the academia. And if you enjoy love triangles, because this is one of the best ones I have seen done to date. This one really, really, really does deserve a spot on my TBR list of shame, let me tell you. Although, to be fair, I haven't owned it as long as some of the others because I really didn't want to buy the one with the skull on the cover because that freaked me out. So maybe I'm not even cut out for this book. I'm not sure, but please meet ML Rio's If We Were Villains. I love dark academia. I love Shakespeare. I love mysteries and whodunits. I should love If We Were Villains. Why haven't I read this book yet? This is exactly what I said this time last year. Exactly. Literally. Like out loud. To my husband. And here we sit in the exact same spot. Well, not the exact same spot. I think it was on the couch, but you get the point. And I still haven't read this book. Someone make me read this book! On the day that Oliver Marks gets out of jail after spending 10 years behind bars, the detective who convicted and put him there comes up to him and is like, look, I am retiring. Nothing means anything anymore. I need you to tell me exactly what happened with your case and if I did the right thing and you should have been convicted. Okay, first of all, dude, like if you're that unsure that he should have been behind bars, maybe you shouldn't have put him there and should have done a little more investigating. No, just me. Okay, fine, whatever. But like, just saying. This is about an acting company set at a college. We've got all the nice dark academia stuff going on, and it sounds like they use a ton of Shakespeare quotes, and they're mostly like Shakespeare based. And those in the company, we've got like the stars and the secondary cast members. And those who are usually the stars are sort of like the loudest members in the group and the starring members in the group as well. And those who play the secondary characters kind of play second fiddle to them in real life. And then all of a sudden things swap around. The secondary characters are getting the starring roles and they get more confident and they're taking over and being like the star members of the group and vice versa. And somebody really can't handle this. And so someone winds up dead. Now I'm gonna guess one of the previous stars like takes out a secondary cast member who suddenly stole a role, but I'm probably wrong. That feels too obvious. I can't wait to find out. I want to find out. I'm dying to find out. Why haven't I read this book? I also feel really, really sorry, I'm just saying, for the police who have to solve this mess because like we've got a bunch of overdramatic actors and then we've got people who are trained actors and they're going to be able to act however they want when the police are interviewing them. So good luck sussing out fact from fiction. I guess I kind of understand why the detective is like, hi, I need help. I have no idea what actually happened. Make this your pick if you love Shakespeare and you want to beat me to the punch. Let me know how it goes. Please don't still be on my TBR this time next year. But that is it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me, you guys. Next time, I promise we will have a less dark and murdery video and something much more cozy and, apple-centric. Like, seriously, think apple orchards, guys. Please like this video, leave a comment if you enjoyed returning to college with me, and subscribe if you feel like after all this discussion of academics, you feel like I deserve the virtual equivalent of an apple. But for now, I will let you get back to your book, and maybe when you open that cover, you will be deciding to spend some time wandering through the hallowed halls of some of our finest collegiate academic institutions. Just remember to bring your flashlight, because apparently it gets kind of dark in there. Bye. Oh no. Oh, you're gonna fall. Oh, that's too many books. Oh no. No, 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 no.